Ratchet& Clank is a video game series that was created by Insomniac Games and released on the PlayStation 2 in November of 2002. It is the first installment in a long-running series, with its most recent installment, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, on the PS5. So, how does the original one that started it all hold up today? Let's find out.
The story begins with Ratchet stuck on planet Veldon, where he's fixing his ship. It then cuts to a robot factory where a little robot comes out, which is Clank. He escapes from the factory to a ship where he is followed by two other ships. One of those ships shoots him down and Clank crash lands on Veldon. Ratchet sees the ship crash and heads over to investigate. He sees Clank, picks him up, and heads back to his ship. So the two of them team up to find Captain Quark and stop Chairman Drek from destroying planets to create his own new one.
The gameplay of Ratchet & Clank is a platforming game with third-person shooter elements. So do a lot of jumping, precise platforming and shooting. With the controls, you got X to jump, square for your melee, which is your wrench, circle is for your weapons or gadgets, triangle is to activate your weapon wheel. While running, when you press R2, you can do a long jump with the assistance of Clank's helipack. You can also do it while standing still or walking at a slower pace and do a high jump with the helipack. There is also a first-person mode which can be useful when aiming up a shot with one of the long-range weapons. In Ratchet & Clank, the gameplay loop that progresses the story is finding an infobot, item, and or person, which will lead you to the next planet. When you land on a planet, there can be multiple paths. One will normally lead you to an infobot, continuing the story, and the other one might lead you to a gadget. In some cases, you won't be able to complete everything on the planet in one visit, and may need to be visited multiple times, whether there's an item that someone wants behind a paywall or an item needed to get past a certain obstacle in the game. The only thing that hasn't aged particularly well is the camera movement. It can feel sluggish at sometimes, as well as opening up your weapon wheel does not freeze the game, unlike its sequels. But even with these extremely itsy-bitsy criticisms, to me, it adds to the charm of it being an older game. It feels very start and stop. In some areas you can just go run and gun on a group of weaker enemies, while in some parts of the game you may want to stop and use a ranged weapon like the blaster, devastator and or visibomb on stronger enemies. Sprinkled throughout the game are sections where you play as Clank. Similar to Ratchet, the gameplay has platforming, though generally through small, tight and concealed spaces that Ratchet wouldn't be able to get through. The exception being when you first arrive at planet Auxin, where the planet is too polluted for Ratchet to get out of the ship. There is also less of a focus on combat, though Clank can still attack small enemies like toads. Also in these Clank sections, you can find Gadgetbots. Gadgetbots can be controlled by Clank, like Ratchet. Holding down the triangle button will open up the weapon wheel, but instead of weapons, there are 4 different commands you can give the Gadgetbots, which are wait, where the Gadgetbots will wait and stand still, follow, where they will follow you, enter, which can either be through a little portal, since the Gadgetbots cannot climb, or go into a little hut that has a number of the Gadgetbots needed to proceed to the next area, and attack, which is pretty self-explanatory, commanding the Gadgetbots to attack enemies. Near the end of the game, there are 2 enlargers that Clank can stand on to become Giant Clank. While in Giant Clank form, Ratchet is the one on the back of Clank, mirroring the opposite of what has come in the adventure so far. In these sections of Clank, you can punch and use missiles on enemies and destroy obstacles in your way. There are 2 hoverboard races, one in Blackwater City and the other at Kalibo 3. There is a trick system within the hoverboard races that give you boost, but I didn't really try any of the tricks. In the game, there are mandatory dogfights. The first one that appears is the one Planet Pogataru, in which you fly a ship around the resort, taking out the Blarg tanker ships, dumping their waste into the water. With your fighter jet, you have a minigun and a missile launcher. In order to obtain more missile ammo, you need to destroy the smaller Blarg ships. The smaller Blarg ships that try to attack you drop health, which I found not very difficult. I'm not sure if I lost any health when I was playing through that section of the game. The second time it shows up is when you are chasing down Quark, and the final one is against Drek's fleet. This one felt very anticlimactic because you are just taking down the turrets that are in your way of progressing along the fleet. The currency that is used in the game is called bolts. Bolts can be found all around the planet and especially in crates. Throughout the world of Ratchet & Clank there are crates. The brown crates have bolts in them, which can be saved up to buy weapons and gadgets, or by paying someone for a gadget. There are also ammo crates, which contain ammo for your weapons in them. Metal crates, which can only be destroyed by an explosive. The explosive crates, touching the explosive crate will cause it to count down until it explodes. Destroying crates underneath will also cause it to count down, and by hitting directly with your wrench or weapons will cause it to explode on contact. And lastly, nanotech. Nanotech is used to heal Ratchet and Clank if they have lost any health. Later in the game, you can purchase more nanotech, which increases the maximum health of Ratchet. On each planet there is a Gadgetron vendor, in which you can buy weapons. Some of the weapons consist of the blaster. The blaster is your standard gun. Bomb glove is a glove that throws out bombs. Pyrocitor is a flamethrower, good for small enemies in crowd control. The Devastator is a rocket launcher. The suck cannon is a weapon that is able to vacuum up small enemies and use them as ammo. Some of the gadgets consist of the swing shot, allows you to swing and attach to floating grapple points. There's a cool skill point that you can unlock on Rilgar, where you can swing from each grapple point without trying to hit the ground. The Hydro Displacer allows you to refill and drain pools of water. The Trespasser allows you to hack into a security system where there is a puzzle each time, lining up the lights to their respective points. The Magna Boots allows you to attach yourself to surfaces and walk on them, and the Grind Boots allows you to grind on rails. I have a little story about the Taunter, which is one of the gadgets that you can get. It was a glitch that you could do on the PS3 HD version of the game, where you would clip through a wall in Blackwater City and glide down to the hoverboard course. Stand underneath the wall of crates and whip out your Taunter and hold down the circle button and the bolts will come flying down to you. That was how I was able to afford the Rhino on my first playthrough on that version of the game. Throughout the game, there are boss fights. The three main ones that you are put up against are the Bulgarian Snagglebeast, Captain Quark, and the final boss being Chairman Drek, which all have fairly distinct playstyles that you've learnt up to that point, with the Bulgarian Snagglebeast putting you into an arena, Captain Quark being a dogfight boss battle, and Chairman Drek being similar to the Bulgarian Snagglebeast, but constantly have to be on the move since he is destroying the platforms. The music. The soundtrack in Ratchet & Clank was composed by David Burgard? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It blends sci-fi atmosphere mixed with funky beats. Most of the planet's soundtrack does a good job standing on its own, setting the scene for what's about to go down on that planet. A personal favourite of mine is the logging site on Eudora. Not much else to say about the music, but I really liked it. Once you finish the story, you unlock New Game Plus. New Game Plus is where you are able to start a new game but keep all of your weapons and gadgets that you obtained in the first playthrough of the game. From the gold bolts that you collected in the game, they can be used to get upgraded variants of your weapons. Skill points. In the game, there are achievements called skill points. These are little achievements within the game, whether it's like the previously mentioned swing shot skill point, or shooting down a certain amount of ships with a turret, or using the helipack to land in between the legs of the robot on top of ours Robo Shack. The skill points that you earn can be used to unlock behind the scenes footage and developer commentary. Ratchet & Clank on the PS2 is a fantastic game that kicked off one of the best PlayStation franchises with multiple sequels and spin-offs that still continue till this day. And even if there are some quirks that don't hold up to the modern day standards, there is still a lot of fun to be had here. And if you haven't already, go ahead and give it a try. I recommend that you play it or any of the other games in the franchise. So I guess the takeaway from this game is that it only takes one good idea. Who knows what will happen next and how far it can go. Thanks for watching.